Hello everyone and welcome to Bachocolio Streams. As usual, I'm Bachocolio and today I will be putting some arms on my Necromunda dudes. Welcome to all. Hello Itzanif. Fine completely. Just paint along as I ramble on about things that come up as we go along. Glad you could join us and also, welcome to anyone else who is on the stream right now or will be lurking about in the background during the proceedings. So I decided to start off a bit earlier today as I made some basic calculations, even though my math is not particularly strong, and I realized that the projects I'm currently undergoing are going to take a bit of more time than initially estimated. So I'm gonna try and have a few weeks or months of streams where I will try and start off as early as possible and go on for as long as possible just to make up for some time until the deadlines have become critical. I actually realized this during the painting of the Norse team. Let me just remind you, it is these guys right here. So it's going to take a bit more time than I estimated, considering I'm doing about a stream per week on a certain project. So I'll try to change that. Also, come September, I won't be able to stream probably at least a couple days during the week, or if I do, they will be shorter streams, so I will have less time. So it's just, I thought it'd be a proactive action to invest some more time earlier on rather than rush myself at the end. Also, for whatever reason, I'm feeling a bit refreshed now, and I think I can go on for longer periods of time, trying to find a comfortable position so that I can work along better and more comfortable. Now I do realize that this particular project, the building of the Necromunda gang, may not be particularly the most entertaining thing, being a bit of a tedious task as it is, but I would like to keep these streams as a chronicle of my actions, of my hobby, both in building, painting, and playing some video games. So, what are the plans for today? Well, first of all, I will take these sprues and I will straight off clip each and every arm that is one piece, meaning that it has a weapon and the whole arm together with it. And this will make it possible to get the easiest stuff done with quicker, and it will leave less parts on the sprue for me to try and figure out how to build the multi-piece arms, the ones where I need to add more than one piece, such as here, where you can see he has both hands on the gun, but his arms are not attached, so this will be a three-piece, and so on and so forth. So let's start with the simplest ones, and if time allows it, we will get to the more difficult ones. Ideally, I'll be able to connect everything today, and the last build stream for this will actually have just a bit of drilling, spinning, and filling up with stick attack. So let's get right into it. As usual, I will start with the emptier sprue. in the hopes of getting it all cleaned up. So right here I see one such piece, and I will be clipping it up right away. If I can get my clippers in range of the material. And there we go. Recently I have started to watch a stream of the older Fallout games, and I will be lying if I said that it did not give me an itch to replay those games. And it did give me the idea to go into it. Also, keeping up with my initial thoughts on basically creating hype for upcoming titles, it will coincide with a game called Encased, which is developed by a bunch of Russian guys who have experience in the development of a little game called Divinity Original Sin. So, while not the full team, they have had some involvement in the game, which gives them some credibility. And if their campaign on Kickstarter is anything to go by, this will be somewhat of a spiritual successor to Fallout. With different aesthetics, naturally, and a different setting on a different planet, and a bit of a shinier graphics engine. So, considering that it will be launched pretty soon, I think it will come out of early development. In case it is or isn't, I actually haven't checked in a few weeks to see how the project is going, but I will do so. And another thing, considering Obsidian, that came to mind was Wasteland 2. I haven't seen too much of it on any channels, though there is content, certainly. So I thought that it might be an idea to go through that game as well. These are, of course, just ideas. I haven't yet made up my mind, but they are things that attracted my attention and would be worth investigating. I will give the Surge a couple more tries, this is what I decided, and if it starts to get way too slow to advance, or if I essentially just get stuck somewhere along the way, I will discontinue the series. But if for the next 2 streams of the Surge I manage to keep up the pace and get decent advancement, I will push forward until I beat it. So these are the more immediate plans regarding the stream. So in summary, more streams, longer streams, and hopefully getting some stuff actually done and completed, so we can move on to the next. Now, I think that is all there is. Oh no, this sledgehammer is ready for use as well. Hopefully I won't break it. I did not. This is a good start. Right, so let's take a quick look again. Now, this appears to be multi-part. This is multi-part. This will have just the extension of the arm, which should probably be this one. This will also be a multi-part. This is essentially a single part with a magazine extension, which is probably this piece here. But yeah, I think that we are done with the first batch of things to clean up. And then we can take a look again to see what we missed. Right, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty of it. Get out our hobby knife, which has already drawn blood on stream. Hopefully I will manage to be more careful this time. So I will mainly be using the mold line remover for smoothing out any mold lines instead of the hobby knife, since the wounds of previous streams have not completely healed up. I wouldn't want to reopen them just yet. Seem to remember that there was a third connecting point, but I may have just been horribly wrong. Oh, there it is. Right on top. Yeah, I have been doing some thinking about how to improve things, and this is pretty much what I came up with for now. Hopefully my brain will actually give me better ideas as time goes on. But for now, I think that this is a fairly steady roadmap of things to come. So let's just take things one at a time. In this case, getting the Goliaths ready for the game field, for the tabletop. I'm still doing all of this completely oblivious to the rules, but I have watched a few battle reports. I watched several on the Underhive starter box, and also a quick campaign on Gang Wars. So I am getting basic idea of what I am to expect out of this game mechanics wise, and it does seem, while complex and somewhat complicated, the majority of it appears to be intuitive. So for any reference, for you to gain understanding of what I've watched. I've mainly monitored the Mini Wargaming channel. Now, I am understanding that they are not experienced Necromunda players, and as such, the tactics and strategies and whatnot that was employed in these campaigns and games is not necessarily a representation of how the game is played. At least that is how I felt after watching their Blood Bowl 2016 campaign, in which it is obvious that they were focusing more along the lines of showing what the game can do, what are the actions that are available to each player, rather than actually displaying any in-depth tactical play. That's completely fine, and it serves its purpose as intended. One thing that does puzzle me surrounding Necromunda is that when I saw that there are essentially 4 classes or levels of gangers in each gang, and yet the miniatures don't particularly have any discerning features to denote them as such, which does give the freedom for someone like me who doesn't particularly know what they're doing with the building to just build whatever they want and just name the gangers as leaders and champions and Jews as appropriate, or Juvies. Not particularly sure how the pronunciation of this would be, since it does come from juvenile, and if juvenile detention centers being called juvies is anything to go on, it would make sense for them to be called juvies, but might be Jews, I don't really know. Perhaps someone who is a native speaker would be able to shed some light on this mystery of fanatics. Which leads me to the question on how the different roles will be represented on the board. And I think that this will be done with some adornments on the bases, most notably on the base rims probably. I'd make some detachable rings or something along those lines to indicate who will be who for this particular, well, for any particular game or round, if we ever get to play a campaign. Currently I'm going through a process which will probably yield multiple defects as a finished product, and that is actually batch cleaning, which is to say I am currently working on simply removing the bits of sprue that are left over on the pieces, and I'm completely out of frame. the bits and pieces that are out of white. And then I will proceed to cleaning the mold lines, and then I will go through smoothing things out. And while this might sound systematic and well executed, truth of the matter is that going through any such process is bound to lead to oversights. So I'm pretty sure that I will miss a majority of mold lines, maybe even mold connections to the sprue. It's not ideal, especially if I'm not 100% focused on the act at hand. But what the hell, let's give it a go and see what atrocities I commit in the process. Here is a large piece of connection that I will take out right away. Now for these bigger parts that I need to remove, I am trying to dig in, as in move the knife up and down, such as regular slicing. Again, this is not the most optimal way to perform these cleanups, since you have less control over what you're doing and you may end up cutting into the actual piece and not ruin it, then at least add some unforeseen dents into the material. But in cases like that, it might be, again, acceptable. Why does this have so many connectors? Here there is a huge one. On the hammer, this is also a pretty good way to get cut. As you are not particularly certain at which point the material will snap off and fling the knife straight into your thumb. Get back to the topic on why I'm going through these things on camera at all. And there are a few explanations for this. As I mentioned already, this is going to be, all of the series are going to be acting as chronicles for my hobbies, and I can, and me and anyone else who would be viewing them can monitor my development in skill, or just at any particular project I take on. Secondly, while a tedious and usually overlooked process, building of the models does have its fair share of details to be explored. And for anyone who happens to be new at this hobby, I believe that this might actually come in handy. And for anyone experienced in this hobby, I hope that they would give me some functional advice on how to improve what I'm currently doing. In addition, there are multiple ways to approach the whole process, as well as things that I will be showing off in the future building projects, which are conversions and kit bashing, which would include more fillings of gaps with various materials such as milliputs and liquid fillings. Again, stuff that is rarely touched upon in other channels, or at least in such tedious and painful detail. So in that way, as unhumble as it might be, I think that I am trying to fill a thematic gap in the streams and channels as a whole. That being said, I am aware that there is a sound explanation as to why that is, and again, that is simply that tedious actions don't make for good entertainment to watch. However, on the offside of this, it gives me plenty of time to work on my banter and my rambles. So it's also a way for me to get into the whole streaming thing. I am still a complete newbie, both in terms of the technical setup and of the execution. So this will allow some personal development, in addition to giving content that isn't all that widespread over the net. I might of course be horribly wrong on this. It's just that I personally haven't come across that many build-centric streams. Most of those that are centered around the creation of models are usually geared towards terrain or scale models. So for miniature wargaming, not so much. And as a final reason, well, I've already moved my workstation on my computer desk, and the cam is tied to the lamp, so as soon as I turn on the lamp, the reasons to not turn on the cam are very few and far between. It is interesting to see how in the Necromunda game the verticality is treated. I've heard on many occasions that verticality is a key part, verticality of the terrain that is a key part of the game, and I would like to see how it is implemented as opposed to games such as War Machine and 40K. because while they were available in the other two examples, they were implemented fairly poorly in that they had too many additional rules and sub-rules on climbing, which, although added a bit of realism, it also hindered gameplay and wasn't really treated that much in games that I watched. So hopefully Necromunda provides an easier, more comprehensive and less clustered, so to speak, approach to climbing and falling and all actions that are in any way related to vertical terrain. Meanwhile, I'm getting a pretty decent itch to paint these guys. I'm actually really looking forward. Have them primed and prepared. I'm thinking about changing the primer just to make the color more manageable for the camera, because as we saw, white doesn't quite cut it. Unless I manage to defeat the flickering issue as soon as I drop the exposure manually, I will need to go to a darker shade for the primers. And this time I don't only have water, but I also have a lovely piece of lemonade. Hey Tanif, thanks for the invite. Gray all the way, you say? Okay. Just have a nice priming session. Get all fumed up on the fumes of the primers. So let's move on to the more fiddly part, which will be the cleaning of the mold lines. So as I have previously spoken about this on other streams, just minimal pressure applied, multiple swings with the removal tool. Check with the finger or the nail to see if there is any remaining mold line, if there is anything preventing the smoothness of the surface. Yeah. That sounds like a plan. Although I would like to get the camera finally properly set up, as this has become a personal offense against me at this point. Every single time the settings of the camera get reset, I have to reset them manually as they were for the previous stream, and I always try and fiddle with the settings And I honestly just get the same result every time, somehow. I've been looking at forums, which hastily dismiss the issue as just imperfection of the Logitech drivers, which is wonderful in that the issue has been identified, but is also very poor because there is no possible solution to the issue I'm experiencing. Naturally, the best solution would be to just get another or better, preferably camera. The mode lines like these here are probably the most annoying to get rid of. On uneven surfaces such as this tubing, if I scrape off the mold line as usual, I will destroy the tubing detail. I'm trying to avoid this as much as possible by really lightly just grazing the top of the line. However, it will probably dig into the tubing after all. My saving grace in this case will be that this tube will be pointing downward, and it won't draw too much attention to itself from that angle. Yeah, this just is not going away. And then there are still bits and pieces of the line in between the tubes, which I have to look through with a file or something. But this is all part of the hobby, and I will tackle it as the challenge presents itself. Meanwhile, I have to say again that this app for copyright-free music is really nice. Been giving some really good variety of styles and some pretty nice bands, some of which I really intend to look up. As always, if you find this particular station that I am on distracting or annoying, or you just plain old don't like it, let me know and I can easily change the genre of music that is being played, as I mostly just use it for a background to fill up any dead air in between my ramblings. So here we have another line going under the arm, weird because the bodies, the torsos, the heads, these pieces were virtually mold line free. They had a couple of lines to clean up. And as soon as I get to the arms, the situation becomes quite different. Here we have a line that goes again through Knuckles, which is rather nasty to clean up. And then we have this one that goes under the gun barrel. Thankfully this one goes away with a couple of strokes from the remover, from the tool. I've mentioned previously, but this is a pretty fine tool. Not 100% mandatory under any circumstances, but it's a bit of a quality of life improvement. And if you find yourself getting cut by the X-Acto blades too often, you might just consider getting this little piece of gear. Alright, since there was a connection right on the barrel of the gun, on the front of the barrel, I'll just give a few scrapes to make sure it lays flush. And I will be drilling the barrels, so you can hold down the pitchforks. I usually drilled the barrels using the X-Acto blades, but since I have a hand drill, I might as well put it to use as well. Can't recall if I've actually ever used it for this purpose. I don't think I've been building guns for quite a while. Been mostly in Blood Bowl related stuff, so not many guns there. Maybe just a chainsaw or a cannon, but I haven't worked on these models. So this is a nice throwback to good old 40K. As it uses very similar weapons. In some cases it uses the exact same weapons. In some cases slight variations of them. But they do look neat and pretty cool as a whole. And again, as previously mentioned, I can't wait to put paint on them. Though it wouldn't be really soon, as I will need to get through the Norse team first. Okay, and again, since there was a connection here on the bicep, I would like to try and smooth it out. As much as possible. Or as you can see that there are some bevelings going on, some changes in the natural curvature of the detail. Give it a thorough look through. There are some lines here on this very fine little detail. I would like to have it cleaned, so I don't get any nasty surprises after the priming. For whatever reason, my mind is telling me to look at the piece from an angle that I am aware will not show me the mold lines, and yet I still do it anyway. A bad habit that I would need to get out from. So I think we can call this clean. Just shake on it. Move on to, let's say, the big hammer. And let's first focus on the connecting points to the sprue, as they are the most apparent ones and have the most material to be removed. Therefore, if I happen to miss them, they will make the most impression after priming and painting. This back of the arm up to what will be the shoulder is another connecting point. And of course the back. I would call that decent. The first thing would be first from here on out, this huge thing needs to go. Apologies if the squeaking sound of the scrapes is getting caught on the mic, but it is fairly close to my work area, and I'm sorry. For now, there is no workaround for that. scrapey, and so on, essentially. Trying to methodically go through through the piece, carefully observing. I usually just start from one spot and do the whole run one after the other to maintain consistency and minimize the chances of missing anything. We are getting into some tight corners here. Nothing that cannot be tackled. Again, of course, the tubes have a mold line running through them. Because why not? This is because of the general positioning of these tubes on all details that they are on. How this couldn't be in any way addressed is beyond me, since this has been happening ever since the old Space Marine sprues were released. And yet this has not been addressed in any edition or release since then. But I suppose if it's there, there's no way to not have a mold line running through it. But it's sad because this is one of the funner, more distinct details. And it just always feels bad to sort of ruin it. By the way, Ethan, if at any moment you choose or decide to share with us what it is that you're currently painting, since I don't think you've mentioned that, I would be more than glad to show the stream. Just if you feel like it, of course. Do not feel under any circumstances obligated to do so. Just a thought. I'm going to clean this up is beyond me, but give it a fair shot and just hope for the best. I think in this case it sort of worked out. Don't mind the shaky cam. It works just as intended. And these last pieces I will have to use the Exacto to get rid of, just because it has a finer reach. Also, if any chanting comes through on the mic, I live very near a football stadium, and whenever there is a game and I have the windows open, you can very much be a part of that experience. Whether or not this is a pleasant one, I will leave that to your own devices to figure out. Okay, so we did get this thing done as well. Going on to this big old cleaver thing. Has something like a bottle opener here, or a skull opener. If we want to be all grim dark about it. So far, I think that we have a decent balance between melee and ranged, so it will lead to a decent selection. So connectors first. Where was the one on the arm? There it is, right here. Right on the back of the arm. So what do we do with it? Everyone go all together. Just go scrapey scrapey until it goes away. Right. Okay, here is the mold line I've been looking for. Oh, by the way, while I was watching the Fallout Let's Plays, I did notice a playthrough of the board game of the same name and license. Now, I didn't watch too much of it, I just wanted to see if it's what I thought it was. And it got me to remember that there was actually at one point a pen and paper RPG released for Fallout. So I was wondering, and this is a question for anyone either watching right now on Twitch or later on YouTube, to let me know in the comments. Have you had any experience with any of these two games? So either the pen and paper RPG or the board game, and let me know how it feels like, as I have been wondering myself. Hey Rowarimbo, how you doing? Welcome to the Scrapatorium, as today we will mostly just be scraping along these mode lines. Oh, that's good to hear. We have also Etanif with us in the background, as he is also doing some painting. He has not mentioned what exactly he is currently painting, and he may surprise us with some pics later down the line. How was your travel after the tournament on Sunday? Was everything fine? Yeah, it has been pretty warm lately. I'm glad to hear that everything was fine and you made it back safely. Yep, okay. Well, 5 liters might be a bit excessive, but quite frankly, for the warmer months, the advice is to go over 3 up to 4 liters, I think, per day. So I don't think is that much over in terms of excess. Sadly, beer does not account in these equations, but still. I had raised the topic about board games that have been, yeah, it doesn't, that have been made under license of old RPGs. Mainly the one I thought about was the Fallout board game, and I was asking around if anyone has had any experience with it, and if so, what those experiences were. Again, I am a massive Fallout fan, and it takes very little to get me all riled up on the topic. I've recently been watching a Let's Play. Oh, I see. Been a while with them. Because there are all these licensed board games coming out, some of them as Kickstarters, such as Mantic's take on Hellboy, and Fantasy, I think it's Fantasy Flight for Fallout, I don't know. And was it Cool Mini or not that did the Bloodborne board game? Can't remember. But yeah, a lot of them have been popping out of the woodwork, and I was just wondering if anyone has actually had any decent experience with them. I personally have only played the Gears of War one, and I am pretty happy with it. Pretty hard, mostly random, but it's a nice co-op game. And it got me thinking about other such iterations, since they are as much board games as they do touch on the hybrid. So part board game, part miniatures game, and as I've mentioned on and off stream, I have a soft spot for these kind of games. So I was just wondering if anyone has had any experiences with any of these games, and just to share. Lately I've also noticed that there is a Doom licensed board game with lovely minis. And from my experience, they make for games of this type, so I don't know if it is fair to generalize or if they have very specific approaches to game mechanics, but in general they are something. Yeah, alright. Yeah, same with me, in that in my immediate everyday people have resigned themselves from board games. So I'm mostly with you guys for anything related to board games and video games for that matter. So. Aside from that, just to finish my thought on the matter, was that playing these games is like going through very, very simplified, very miniaturized role-playing versions of these games, but very, very simplified, which makes it fun and a rather quick playthrough. Some of them offer campaigns with multiple levels. And as they are licensed products to have to do with the IP of the originals, there is a lot of familiar terms and pictures and symbols all around that makes going into these games a bit easier and more fun, as you can spot some Easter eggs and type. Exactly, and that's why I'm raising the topic at all, since I have actually only played one such game, and I am mostly satisfied with the mechanics that it has. It does have some interesting approaches to actions and health. However, other such games, although I don't think that they were licensed, mostly released by Cool Mini or not, or as they are now known, Simon. The gameplay is not stellar, whereas the miniatures are, and most people just buy the whole product just for the minis. And I just want to check if this is... So we have both variants. I want to see which one is predominant, if anyone has anything to share on the matter. Well, yeah, but in that case, why bother with all the cardboard? I mean, it just, it's kind of like Grebo's new policy on their decision for the current and futures Kickstarters for their teams. They have reduced the amount of goodies to release in their Kickstarter. So fewer markers, cheerleaders and whatnot to keep the price of the Kickstarter down, since the materials have recently gone up in price. And to maintain the overall pledges, they decided to cut off these things, and to be honest, I at least am getting overrun with bits and pieces that I will either never paint, or at least don't have anything to do with the game itself. Well, they are representations of some things that they are rarely used, if ever. And it is a similar situation with board games that are simply released for the miniatures that they have in them. Yeah, pretty much. So I really wasn't mad when they announced that. I'm pretty okay with that. They will still be available just as separate additional items that you can acquire in the Pledge Manager. So if you really want them, you can always get them. Yeah, you mentioned that. So he should be having quite a few additional models lying around. And it's sad, since most of them are finely cast and well detailed. Interesting models just don't get the attention that they might deserve from a paintbrush. I don't know if anyone would interject here stating that they paint every single bit and piece that comes in these Kickstarters, but I think the overall consensus is... Oh, that's cool, yeah, so if they do find a home somewhere in some system, that's good. Yeah, exactly. One of the most wonderful things about the hobby is being able to apply what you have to what you need. As we have recently seen in our tournament, with the aliens proxying as Skaven and the Manazons, or Amazonians as they were called, were also very fun proxies. And back to cleaning up stuff. So let's just have a quick look through this piece. Oh yeah, yeah. He might have a scroll or something that might not be particularly suited for D&D, but nothing that a quick conversion wouldn't fix, so they would apply pretty well in this setting. Yeah, I'm actually glad to hear that these models are finding use. And aren't like mine, just, sorry for the shaky cam here. Just gathering dust in a box. Oh, there we go. There we go with the pictures. Let's quickly go on over to the picture viewer so we can see what Itsanef is currently working on. So here we have something orky. These would be a necro gang. Alright. Alright, this looks interesting. These are actually the awesome greens that we have discussed already. Yeah, these are great. And is that a cyber leg? I see another cyber leg. Where was it? A mold line? I didn't see a mold line. And I am definitely not the one person to judge, considering... Alright. Considering how much I have left of these. Oh yeah, this head is great, look at that. Also, amazing detailing, dude. Look at how much I zoom in, and there is no spillage. Everything is crisp right in the lines. Amazeballs. Really cool. Really well done. Alright, bon appetit. Sure thing, don't worry, I'll be going on for as long as I physically can, so don't worry about it. Bon appetit. Let's just take a quick look at the third one. Oh lordy. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Beautiful. Gorgeous model and lovely paint job. Really awesome. Again, the detailing is exquisite. Like, for real. Okay, let's... Yeah, I can see that there are still details that you will go into, but even on this stage, looking really great. Really great. Thank you for giving us a sneak peek at this. And back to scraping. Alrighty. So yeah, again, a mold line going through fine detailing. In this case, these little, I don't know if they're shell casings or just parts of the iron sight. I just hope I don't ruin the detail here. Okie dokie. So what else would be interesting as a topic to tackle, as I am scraping bits, admittedly not being the funnest thing to watch, but still a rather mandatory aspect. Well, nothing is completely mandatory, but it does give an overall better feel for the miniature when it's done right. So it is considered to be among the things that you just have to do. Although, depending on what the mini will... Oh yeah? Yes, absolutely. I will be more than glad to do so. Actually, one of the reasons why I decided to go with extended streams for the building and painting is so that I can have some spare time after completing this project and taking a look at the actual terrain. Again, as previously mentioned, I have some plasticard laying about, so after we build the existing terrain, we can dive into some creative work, but this is, again, should be down the line. But yeah, the Necromunda terrain also looks very good, and I would really want to see it. And get the chance to scrape off some mold lines from these bits as well. These barrels will be difficult to drill, they are so fine. Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds great. To tell you the truth, I haven't had a co-op hobbying session in about... How long was it? Maybe 3 years, maybe more. Yeah, it would be nice to resurrect this tradition. Yeah, zenithal highlighting sounds good, especially if you intend to use the whatchamacallits, contrast paints. Zenithal lighting should do wonders before applying color to the terrain. Yeah, alright. Still counts. Yeah, here I used to have two perfectly functioning workstations. This is also... Yeah, well, essentially, I believe that this is what its purpose is. And the zenithal highlighting would simply, or well, pre-shading of any kind or pre-highlighting of any kind, would just help along with, let's say, the first layer of highlighting, but just in very general, in a very general sense. And yeah, we'll see how we'll treat those. So yeah, I used to have to set up workstations for cooperative hobbying. Me and a buddy of mine would get together and build. He would build his Necrons, and I would make my Space Wolves. This didn't really... not for a very long time, but the sessions that we did have were pretty fun, as we would both get into this rather chill mood in which you just cut and scrape and glue and paint, and it gave us plenty of opportunity to nerd out on games, on what we would be playing, both on the tabletop and on PC and somewhat. So it was, while not particularly productive, it was pretty fun. So the opportunity to do this again, yeah, I find it pretty exciting. It'd be fun. Give it another try. Oh yeah, I saw that you in one of the painting groups. So yeah, I do want to showcase this, as it is a beautiful example. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it works really well with this, and I have been thinking about trying out something like that, only with normal Citadel paints, just thinned down with tons of medium and glazing medium. But yeah, I suppose that the contrast paints are perfect for this type of thing. You also had a backpack screenshot which also underlined very well how smaller details look when applied. Is it that one? Yeah, exactly this one. You can see just how lovely, how wonderful that it covers. It goes into the recesses as a shade, it stays out of the way at the top highlights, and the sheen of the metallics, since I seem to remember you actually base coated the model, the detail in the metallic, and then highlighted the metallic, and then over the highlighted metallic you applied the contrast and got this really awesome effect. So yeah, this is a very good recipe for anyone that wants to get tinted color metals instead of bothering to use metallic mediums. Yeah, exactly. So 2 dry brushes. 1 dry brush, okay. Lead Belcher base, Runefang Steel dry brush, and then contrast on top. And it works much better than if you were to mix the paint with a metallic medium, at least in my experience. So it's a much better way. And more consistent if you are going for building multiple models up to an army. For the mixing part, you would need to have a very, very sharp eye to know the exact consistency ratios. Whereas in this case, you just apply 3 layers of paint to get an awesome result. Yes, I have mentioned this, and I have also asked for everyone to lay down their pitchforks. I will be drilling the barrels, just not in this particular step. I was actually mentioning the barrels on this little gun, that it will be a bit of a challenge to not drill my finger. Oh, right, okay. Sorry. Really add barrels. Yeah. For a pilot hull. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is a standard DIY tactic. Whenever you will be drilling a flat surface, regardless if it's a small surface such as in this case or any larger surface, especially glass and plastics, something that's really smooth as a finish, and you're going to go in with a drill bit, usually attached to a power tool. In order to keep it from whirling about, you always make a small hole with it's usually it's referred to as a pilot hole. There are some specific large nails called centers. In Bulgarian, I don't know if the literal translation keeps through into English, but yeah. And they are used for this purpose, to keep the drill bit in place. Now, I maybe won't be using a needle per se. I will probably use the X-Acto blade with its tip and just make a circle around, because that way I can make the hole without applying too much pressure on the surface, and so I wouldn't get a bevel. Because if I press hard, well, in this case it probably won't happen, but if I press hard with a sharp object, it might dent the whole surface down. Well, I'll just swerve with the X-Acto. Back before I got the hand drill, I just continued to do this for the entire drilling. So I just used the X-Acto blade and kept drilling. Now, the issue there was that the hole became a cone rather than a straight cylindrical hole, which doesn't really make any impression on the surface. It doesn't look any different, but you yourself know it's a cone, and so it's not how it's supposed to be. So again, upgrading your toolset gives you easier access to more options. And also, for some reason, I've always wanted to have a hand drill. Even way before starting this hobby, it just looked like a fun tool to have. Now here I was thinking whether or not this piece here was a connection to the sprue, but it's not. It's a part of the model. I'm just going to carefully clean it out. Or at this point, really not so carefully, but still clean it out. Right, so I am constantly trying to bring back the topic around Fallout, but I don't really know what to talk about it. It's just something that once it gets under my skin, it stays there for a good month or so, and then I burn out on it. And then after a while, whenever I see any mention of it, I go back into raging fan mode. For whatever reason, I just love the series. Well, the old ones anyway. Although the new ones have, the new iterations have their merits, but the old ones just have something. Maybe it is because it's one of the earliest games I've ever played on PC. I was, what, 12, maybe? When I got my hands on Fallout 1. And naturally, at this time, that game was absolutely impenetrable to me. But as I got a little older and I wouldn't say wiser, but just more used to games like this, I went back to it and I had some of my best gaming experiences in my life. But it wasn't until much later that, hey there, Rubber Rimbo. Welcome back. Just telling stories about me and Fallout 1 and 2, as they are in my top 5 personal favorites of all time. And considering I've been watching all of these Let's Plays recently, I just felt like I had to talk about it. Yeah. Sure thing. Okie dokie. Have a lovely jog. There is a bit of a nice draft, I feel, coming from the outside, so it should be refreshing. So have fun with that. Yeah, no, for real. It's coming through. There is a cool breeze right now. And actually, I think that we have all of these done right now. With the exception of barrel drilling. Oh, I actually, if you're referring to me, I do enjoy jogging. So, but yeah, owning a dog kind of forces you to have these little fresh air sessions every once in a while. Well, regularly, daily. Oh well, take it easy in that case. Don't force it. Yeah, this is a very common trauma, unfortunately, and it's pretty nasty. But yeah, have fun. That's a lovely thing. Yeah, you have some war stories then. Some battle scars to complement the stories. Here's something that we can do as I take a bit of a break. So we can look through and see how the distribution between left and right arms is. So this would be a left arm, a right arm, another left, and another left. So I think you can see that with these pieces I will not be able to make too many working models unless I give them all multiple arms on one side, which won't be the case. So to get an initial couple for each body, as I have built 6 torsos, we would need 6 pair of arms at least. Currently we just have 1 pair. I will just set it aside. And we would need 3 more arms that are right arms. And then after that we can make two doubles, meaning one gun or weapon being held by 2 arms, 2-handed weapons. Much quicker way to say the same thing. So let's go back to the sprue and look for the right arms, which will be, in this case, multi-part. I see a grenade launcher. That is, in fact, a right arm. And it will have 2 components. Okay, so that's one option that we have fairly easy to assemble. We have I think this is rather a hammer, a wrench of some sort. And I suppose it goes with number 44, so this and this would make up an arm. However, these I will tackle one by one, so that I don't mistake the build-up. Although they should be sequential on the sprue. For instance, this piece, number 33, should either go with 32 or 34. Where is 34? Should be a weapon of some sort. Nope, 34 does not appear to be this piece. Interesting. What is 31? Does it happen to be... Yeah, okay, so these two are the arms for this weapon. Good. Good. Eternal gratitude to Games Workshop for numbering their details. Although I'm not sure if this applies wholeheartedly. For instance, we have detail number 7 here. So, details 8 and 9 should be the associated arms. This is 9. Where is detail number 8? Probably somewhere. But yeah, this is how we will approach this multi-part arm situation. So where do we start off with? 45 and 44. Yep. Let's get the big wrench. No, for Necromunda I am still going through the steps of having the bodies done first, and then the full assortment of arms. Then I will drill holes, fill them out with stick attack, and paper clip pieces, so I can pin them in place, and I can have them swappable, so I can tailor various loadouts for the game. Which brings me back to when I was building the Space Wolves, where I had a similar approach. And to tell you the truth, when you have about 8 or 10 models and a good 20 pairs of arms, makes the process much longer and fairly more tedious, not gonna lie. Let's just find the right angle to take this on. Here and here, and lastly here again. And then it was 44. There we go, this one here. So again, repeating the same process. Scraping up the big parts. And here as well. Although I have to say, simply relying on sequential numbering of the details isn't the most reliable method of assigning bits. Usually what I have seen done on other sprues is the combination of numbers and letters, such as 1A, 2A, and 3A would combine for one detail, for one element. And not really sure why GW decided to go with numbers alone. Probably because there is a small booklet with instructions, but who needs instructions, am I right? We can figure all that ourselves. Makes the process that much more fun. How long building the building takes a lot less time than painting, unless you go into very fiddly conversions that require sculpting and cutting off large bits of the elements. But even then, comparatively speaking, building takes a lot less time. About, I don't know, less than half compared to the painting itself. Naturally, that varies from person to person, since different projects and different people approach the project in different ways, but in general, it takes definitely less time. Unless, of course, you decide to sculpt the whole thing yourself, in which case sculpting may take significantly longer than painting. Because if you start sculpting, you need to bake the things that you sculpt, and it is done in stages. So you sculpt a piece and then you bake it to harden the material, and then you put more on it. And first you need to build a frame, and then you need to build on the frame, expand the frame so that the sculpting material would adhere to the frame, and so on and so forth. So there are ways to make it a lot slower than the paint process, but it just depends. Usually if you have the bits and you assemble it from the kit, and you don't want to magnetize or make the allow for swappable limbs and loadouts, it takes significantly less time to put things together. And if you're using high quality kits, then that time is reduced even further, because once you glue everything together, the pieces as intended would fit perfectly into their gaps, or close enough to perfectly, so you wouldn't need to make to fill gaps. And of course, the material plays a part. So working with plastic kits is a lot easier and a lot faster than working with metal kits. And I would place resin in the same category as plastic for the purposes of the build process. Yeah, metal miniatures are usually harder to work with, as it takes much more effort to clean the lines. By the way, Itan, if you are listening still on your jog, it has just started raining here, so be prepared that this might come your way at some point. Unless, of course, you don't mind getting a little wet. So let's clean up our glue dispenser. Always an integral part of the hobby. And this is considering that I keep it in the fridge, so it shouldn't set as hard as it does. If I leave the super glue in the warm outside, it will turn to rock in a matter of hours. However, in this case, the fridge did not salvage the situation, so we will need to make some incisions. I'll clean up my cleaning tool. That makes sense. And hopefully, yeah, okay. How does this go to here? Dry fitting is a very important step whenever you're putting something together. Usually, probably redundant to say this, but still I do. Again, in case that someone just starting out is unsure on how to approach this part of the hobby. And as usual, I drowned it in glue. Maybe someday I will learn not to do that. But that day will not be this day. Okay. So yeah, as you can see, Citadel kits just go in perfectly together. The details are made well. So this is in fact a right arm that we can pair off with this gun. So this is our second pair of arms. And onto the third. Just put the glue right here. Not the correct sprue. There it is. So what other weapon is a two-piece? And is there even a single other weapon that is a one-piece? To that I would say no. We are moving into two-piece weapon territory. Three-piece. Oh no, we have the grenade launcher. Okay, yeah, let's get the grenade launcher out. Probably one of the funnest little pieces, so... At least I think it's a grenade launcher. Might not be. And of course I would. And there we go. And I suppose that this piece would be what complements it. It would be easier to liberate it from this side. There we go. I'm leaving the two-handed weapons last on purpose because I usually run into problems with them. The reason for that is that whenever you place the arms on the main weapon, there is a chance that you don't place them correctly no matter how much dry fitting you do beforehand, and as a result the arms do not align with the shoulders of the torso, which makes it look rather goofy. And I am always worried whenever I do such builds, since it's a 4-point assembly, counting the shoulder mounting points and the wrist mounting points. It's a total of 4 connections that you have to align perfectly, and that is finicky to do since you don't actually have them near one another when you are actually building them. And in some cases there are workarounds, and in other cases you just really have to be super precise with what you're doing. As you may have mentioned, I do not fall into the category of super precise, so I'm going to have to look around for a workaround. As an example, with the Space Marines, they had two hands holding a bolter. However, the hand that supported the bolter was a whole arm. So it should have been a 4-point connection for the glue, but it was actually only 3 because you could leave the arm unglued, the hand to the weapon part. This point you could leave unglued, and if you have magnetized it, then you had a decent gap, a buffer to work with. So you never really had to go into the full connect every piece to every piece thing. In this case, my only saving throw is that I will make the drill holes for the pinning much larger than the pins themselves, and I will fill the holes with sticky tack, which will give me some amount of buffer to correct any imperfections in the build, and hopefully that will be enough. I don't know if it will be, but we'll see. At any rate, I am not going to tackle this issue immediately. So I'm just going to go through the single arm weapons for now, in the hope that they will turn out to have sufficient pairs, but I don't think this is the case. Let me know if none of what I just said makes sense, because I was making up some terminology on the spot, on the fly, and it may have not translated very well for you to imagine it. So if there are any misunderstandings, I can just get out some visual aids to properly explain what I mean. Because words are hard. Okay. Does it look smooth? I think it does. The underlyings here have a mold line naturally to make it. Just for that little insult on the go. It's not going to deter me from my goal. Why did this piece need to be connected at 2 points to the sprue is beyond me. It's a small detail. Didn't need that amount of support. But I'm not a sprue engineer, so I am not going to comment on this. The first Blood Bowl team was my human team. And the second was the Dark Elves. And actually the third one are the Norse that I'm currently painting. Yeah, but the humans had quite a bit of conversions done to them, and both the painting and the building process for them was pretty grueling. It was the first time I ever converted a model, and I didn't really know what I was doing, and it helped me learn a lot, such as never ever under any circumstances use a power rotary tool. Thank you. Well, if you were to look in up close, there is a myriad of rather striking issues, but thank you. I hope that the paint job was able to hide most of the build imperfections. But it was a great experience to try and build them, to tackle a significant challenge that I had never attempted before. So again, it was a great learning experience, which I will now apply to the orcs as soon as I get the chance to do so. Which will probably be the next things that I will be building. Anyway. And that is when you will be seeing a lot of conversion. A lot of conversion. Yeah, just to illustrate my general speed of painting and building. The human team I did back in 2017. Starting from the beginning, so I got the kit, the 2-player starter for orcs and humans for Blood Bowl. When it came out, so at the end of 2016. It was released in November, I think, but I got it later on. Well, I consider it an achievement myself simply because I enjoy doing it and I enjoy challenging myself in all aspects of the hobby. There are people, if you were to look around, there are commission painters that will not take on the building part. They want to have the models built and primed and ready for painting. And there are some that would enjoy taking the building part as well. So it varies from person to person. Yeah, it's different aspects of the same hobby. So this is the third, actually, pair of arms done. So I have essentially been able to put out one team per year. That, of course, considering that I have taken significant breaks in time. So it certainly wasn't building and painting all the time. I've taken months at a time there where I haven't touched them. But it tends to build up in time, yeah. So with these streams I am actually trying to get a more consistent schedule, so even if I don't have as much productive output. I just keep the ball rolling, and so I don't lose any acquired dexterity or skills or ideas, because otherwise I have the tendency to very easily burn out and stop doing it for several months and then essentially having to restart. Especially with the elves, it has taken me about a couple of hours to try and remember the color recipes I used for the previous models when I restarted with painting them. I just want to avoid that. Just build up a routine, stick to it. And so far it's been paying out. It's been fun. Oh, for sure. So, all of these miniatures, they do have value as collectible pieces. So, just because you're not going into the painting and building, owning them and having them as a whole unit has collectible value. They are referred to as collections of miniatures. And when you have a whole block completed, such as this team or this battle unit or this, in this case would be Necromunda gang or something along those lines, every time you get this and you have this consistency throughout the models of the same unit, it always feels good and it always feels satisfying to have them available. Yes. It's just that in our case, so if you're a stamp collector, you just collect the stamps and put them in a booklet, in an album or something like that. Whereas we as hobbyists have the additional benefit of being able to use our collectible items as playable pieces in games, which is added value further still. So this is why I so often mention aspects of hobby. It is very multi-layered and very complex, and everyone has the right to choose which aspects they prefer and which aspects they want to avoid, as long as they find anything that they can latch onto. It is always good. And we have another picture from Beats on it. See what it is. Yes, a fairly standard meme. I will bring it up for everyone to see. Quite, yeah, this is a decent, very good summary. Yeah, yeah. Now, my father has a similar approach to... Yeah, it's really good. Really good and on topic too. my father has the same approach towards me in terms of music. So he is a music collector and is hoarding CDs with music of various types and genres. And his excuse to my mother has always been that this is a collection that he will pass down on to me. Naturally, since then, technology has evolved, and now he actually hoards entire external hard drives, 2 terabytes worth each, and has also have the same notion. So yeah, that is always a lingering thought. Yeah. The issue with adding value to these things is that the value comes from the effort and the enthusiasm that you yourself have put into building the collection. And by building, I mean collecting the bits and pieces for it. So transferring that amount of enthusiasm and love for whatever it is that you're doing, it does not apply for this particular hobby in singular. There is always the risk if you'll be able to transfer the same love to the person that you intend to pass your passion onto. And sometimes this falls down to personal character. Some more charismatic people are able to convey their passion in a more contagious way. Some not so. I have some small hopes that I will be able to one day transfer this passion into at least one other person, be it someone from the stream or someone from real life. But yeah, I really would like to be that type of influencer and be able to spread out the hobby love. Right, so do we have another piece that has a single arm attachment? This is for 2, this is for 2. This is strange. Oh, I suppose the last one would be the grenade hand. It's a right hand. Yeah, there we go. I see. So now we have 4 pairs of arms. Hopefully, by the end of the stream, I'll be able to get 2 more in. And which ones will they be? Let's go for some basic gun arms. So that would be detail 7 with arms 5 and 6, I suppose. I did look at them earlier. No, it's not 6, so it would be 8 and 9. Where are pieces 8 and 9? There's 1, that's 9. So where is 8? There it is. Alright, okay, let's get this going. So we have bit 8. Bit number 7. Where's 7? Where did it elude me? No, actually, bit 9. Here it is. Actually kept my finger on it not to forget, and guess what happened? I forgot. I guess I'll have to go it from here. I really don't like cutting like that, but... And finally... Why does it have 3 connections? Why? This will make it horrible to cut out. Three connections are wholly unnecessary, but I guess it's necessary for the casting process itself. How do I tackle this? From here? Yeah. So I think these are guns for the regular gangers, at least that's what I saw. So I would like to have some cheaper equipment for the regular dudesters. Also, there really isn't that much left on the sprue anyway, so... And that was the... Oh, okay, those are all of the connections then cleaned. Going up to the arm. Alright. And after I clean this up, I will reiterate the point of my concern that I always have when building such two-handed weapons. Just to make sure that I have gotten my point across. Okay. Can now put the sharp object away. just continue to do some load line cleanups. Shocking for this particular stream, I know. So these here bevels will help to make the connection more certain when, I don't know if you can see, but there is a distinct difference. So it goes in like in a triangle form. So the piece that will go into it will have at least a bit of control to self-regulate, but this piece here, it has nothing. It's perfectly flat, and these are the pieces that create usually the issues. Since there is nothing holding them in place in their own architecture when you get the other piece to stick to them. And if there is a mold line, or if it's the worst case scenario, this will actually have a mold line, it will have a connection to the sprue. And unless you get it perfectly cleaned and don't remove any excess material, automatically this whole weapon will not be sitting flat on the torso. So as cool as they are, this type of build is a bit more problems than it's worth. Thankfully, they have relatively few things to clean up. These details are fairly clean. I don't know if I have already mentioned this, but making the build process like this with the detachable arms doubles up as subassembly building for the purposes of painting, meaning that it will be actually easier for me to paint the model afterwards than it would be if I had to make it stick forever. Such as, for instance, as multiple times mentioned, this person of Nordic persuasion. Just a few more scrapes here and there. Oh yeah, and here is another way to assess the time it takes for the build process and the paint process. Considering that this is a fairly simple build and that I am currently not going to make the rest of the arms and torsos, so I will build one pair of arms per body for now, just so I can get something on the table. With the drilling and the attachments, this will be probably up to part 5. So in 5 streams I will manage to build the entire gang until I get it on the table. Whereas for painting, I am well into the 3rd stream, and there will be probably at least maybe 7, at least 7, about twice the amount. So going back to my original point, whenever you have a single arm such as this, it doesn't really matter, you can just apply it, bam, you're done. However, when you have 2 arms that are connected in the middle by the gun, you need to ensure that when you get this arm here, so you have one point of connection. This is what I was referring to when I meant connection points for the build process. So you have one connection here, you have one connection here, and then these 2 connections happen simultaneously to the torso, to the shoulders. And unless everything is perfectly aligned on relatively small surfaces, you will get disalignment and the miniature would look goofy. And I've always been worried when assembling such pieces. So I hope that made a bit more sense now. So first of all, we have a bit of a cheat sheet here with these triangular connections, so I'm just gonna go and put it in first. Okay, so this here, so I have a discernible click when I'm trying to do the dry fit. So this, I already feel resistance in the joint. So this is where the connection should stop. However, for this arm, I won't feel that click. I won't feel that that in place resistance. And we might see a ruined gun. Okay, so something, yes, something like that. This is as close as I can get to in place click resistance on a flat surface. Let's first put on the thing that we are a bit more certain about. Also, I would really like it if I could put just the tiniest little piece of glue. Nope, still too much. Oh well. And now I have to continually move the piece around until it falls into place. Because if I stop for a moment, the glue will sit in and it would ruin the entire thing. So here's hoping that I got it right. Yes. Well, for the purposes of glue, it's just not necessary to have as much, and having too much leads to spillage, and the super glue tends to create texture around the connection point, and it's just something additional that you have to clean, and it takes more time for the glue itself to sit. Right. Well, this looks right. Oh, but it isn't. I don't think it is. Oh well. We will see at the end. So where will you go? This looks... Is this how it has to be? Does it need more space? And there is no clear delineation here, so it should be something like that. Okay. And as you can see, if I support the piece like that, this is how you get your fingers glued to the model. So I actually have to try and remember not to keep my finger right under the connection point, because as the glue will spill out of the flat surface, it will go right onto... Oh, it was an angle similar to this. So something like that, I think. Something like that, maybe. Sort of looks right. Let's just see if that's true. Oh no, we are way off. We are way off. But we can make it work, maybe. So if I were to apply pressure right now, yeah, actually, not too bad. Oh yeah, actually it is. Right, so let me get someone without shoulder pads. Stay. Cute on them. Let's see just how much we managed to screw this up. yeah, you can see just how far off we actually are. So if this guiding arm goes, hopefully the glue hasn't set and it won't cause me issues, but yeah, no, it's really not. Also, in this case, the glue didn't hold right, so it's perfectly fine. But it's still annoying. Actually, I don't think this arm goes on this body at all. Doesn't fit right because of the armor. Because of the chest plate. Or maybe I just glued it all wrong. Yeah, I might have just done that. Yes, but in the case where I have to make it detachable, I can't afford to do that. Yeah, so this is an issue here. There we go. It snapped clean, it didn't take any material along with it. Yeah, so I will probably have to drill these arms together. Yeah, well, actually might as well, why not do it? Have to drill them anyway. So let's use this guy as a test subject. But first, bit of a break. So my plan is that I will make the attachments first. So I will drill the bits in the shoulders for both the body and the arms. I will put them in, and after I have them in, I will glue the gun to the wrists. Hopefully this will work. And hopefully I'll be able to do that in the coming half hour. I have the drill in place. Yeah. it's really pouring outside. So yeah, you can see here the texture that the glue builds. So I will have to clean it off before applying the new batch, or it will extend the wrist. No point delaying any further, might as well get right to it. So if we were to consider this center, just, it's really not the center though, is it? About here-ish. We just circle out a few times, and then in reverse in order to scrape out any of the misses. Go here. Right, this should be enough. A decent pilot hole. And now for the fun bit. Usually this would need to be done with a sequential increase of the size of the drill bit. So you don't usually go straight in with the size of the bit that you want. You usually take one smaller and then you slowly go through larger and larger diameter drills. But in this case I'm just feeling brave. And also I am going through soft plastic, so there is no issue and there is no risk of the material actually snapping off or anything, cracking rather, such as would be the case with glass, for instance. I just need to have a counterpoint here to apply the pressure, center my drill, and dig in. Alright, clean out the holes, and let's do the same for the arms. Again, try to find the center. Centering these things is actually much more important than I make it out to be. But since I'm using a large hole and I'm not going to need perfect precision for the incision hole, as I will be filling it out with sticky tack, which will provide me the necessary buffer to compensate for the inaccuracy. And these will be a bit harder to drill through compared to the shoulders, because I don't have a good counterpoint to the pressure that I will be applying. But it works well enough. And to make sure that I take out the drill shavings, I just do a few rotation in the reverse direction. In order to get the shavings out clean. Alrighty though. Now let's get out the paper clip. And I will use the paper clip bit from the grenade arm that we made a few streams back when we were building the prototype, so that I have a guide as to what length approximately to cut off. can balance it on my finger, so yeah, it's something along those lines here. And we just clip it off. Then we go on a scavenger hunt to see where the hell the paperclip went. And I'll just go ahead and do this one more time. I'm just cupping the whole thing so that it wouldn't fly away in every which direction as it already did. And now, last but not least, we get out the sticky tack. Roll it into a little bit of a bowl. Attach it to our tool. And try to put it in here. And just repeat the whole process again 3 more times. This is probably a bit much. As usual with anything of this type, you always end up using way more than you need. For some reason it's simply impossible to accurately eye out how much material you need. In this case it's fine, I'll just take it off. Take off the excess like this. There we go. Now for the 2 arms. Again, this is a fairly large amount, but no matter. Just trying to stick as much into it as possible. And whatever's left out, we just carefully and slowly scrape away. And actually I'm just gonna use this access straight away, as it should probably be, oh no, I need more. Alrighty, have a good evening, have a good night, pleasant dreams, have a lovely day tomorrow, and thank you ever so much for joining me tonight. Good night. Thank you. So again, just trying to stick as much in as possible. Whoops. By the way, when I bought this sticky tack, I had quite an interesting discussion with the salesperson at the arts and crafts shop that I got it from. Since my initial explanation of what this should be didn't ring a bell, it actually came in the form of poster glue. So poster tack. It is in fact commonly used to stick posters to walls. So if you were ever wondering what exactly is this weird sticky thing that I'm using here, that's what it is. So first of all, let's return this to the grenade hand from where we got it from, and put our brand new pieces of paperclip into the arms. As you can see, as I insert the paperclip, it pushes out more of the sticky tack. This is fine. I actually intend this so that I am sure that there is enough of it to get a good grip. And as there is excess, I will again just resort to this, I will call it a sculpting tool, even though it's dentist equipment. But they use it for sculpting as well, so I think it's fine. There shouldn't be an uproar with this lackluster terminology. Okay, so let's just go ahead and place them as intended. Why doesn't it go in? Seriously, was there that much of a difference? What's wrong here? Oh, nothing in particular. Just, I placed the hole too low or something. Maybe the clip is just too long. So instead I'll just use a lot more sticky tack. To squish it in place for the purposes of being able to take it down. Alright. Well, quite honestly, if this is the result we're getting with sticky tack, it would be better to have a pin inside just in case, but still, nothing too bad. Oops. Right, okay. Thanks, but it really wasn't. I think that I have misaligned the drill holes way too much. Which is okay, it's perfectly fixable, but again, it did not work from the first time. But these are the standard frustrations in cases like this where I don't actually have too much experience with what I'm doing, but it'll work out in the end. One of these back and forth processes that just take time, build up enough experience to be able to measure by eye. Go on then, just stick already. sorry for going silent like that. It's just I'm trying to focus to actually get this to work correctly. Yeah, here we go. Great. Where is our grenade guy? Will be the last one, of course. Yeah, here he is. Right, and so how is this supposed to go then? Okay. Fairly simple when you actually see it like that, in it. Yeah, there we go. I'll just keep it in place for a little while to set in nicely. Now another issue I am expecting from this point on will be that I won't be able to take out both arms like that, as it will try and stretch the connection, but I'll check it out as the glue sets in a while. And so apparently what I found out right now, and the reason why I switched this guy, is that the pose, the model with the pose with the raised knee actually can't have this arm as it pushes down and cannot click well enough together. So these are some further limitations that I had not taken into account. Thankfully, I'm currently only working with sticky putty for these fixations, or fixings, however you want to call them. Okay. Just leave him alone for a second. By the way, let me just repeat, show this again, and emphasize on how cool these models are. I'm sorry, they just look friggin' amazing, don't they? They're just super cool. Every time I get to work with them, it's just, damn, this detail is so cool. Damn, this detail is so cool. Yep, just as I thought. They are not coming off. Well, they will come off, but that means that I will also need to put another drill connection here to allow for the arms. This is getting too complicated. At least more complicated than it should be. But oh well. Still, I will call this pair done, although there is a bit of work to do to it still. Right, well, I think I will be calling it for tonight. I got some ideas for the rest of the two-handed weapons that I need to build. So there will be a lot of additional drilling involved, well, at least one more drill involved. We will get them done. So, oi. That will be all from me for tonight. Again, thanks to all who joined. Thank you, Rora Rimbo, for sticking around for so long. I hope you have a lovely evening, and the same to all that are lurking in the background, and to all that will be watching later on YouTube. Have a nice evening. I'll see you next time, which will probably be tomorrow. But until then, bye bye.